Hey, Ray. Hey.
Oh, hey. Welcome to Catching the Light. I'm here once again with my compatriot, Warren. Hey, bud.
Hey, man.
Thanks for coming in again.
Happy to do it.
You're a trooper.
Oh, man. Well, this is probably going to be the last time for a little while. I might not see you till summer.
Yeah,
And
well,
there's a good chance of that.
I'll miss you.
And I you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. We've been talking. What is this, like episode 7 or 8 or? Yeah, I don't know.
So, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we've been doing it for a while now, and just to kind of refresh everyone's memory, or if this is your first time watching us, we typically talk about our experiences out in LA. We're both from upstate New York, and yeah, we try to talk about what it's like to come from sort of a modest place to a place as chaotic as LA, and try to discover yourself and live out your dreams. And then return back to the modest place and what that's like transitioning to and fro.
I don't know if you ever come back fully, though. When we talk about that, like,
Yeah?
I think there's always...
Piece of us are still out there?
Yep. I think it'll probably... That's what it feels. Doesn't it feel like that to you? I mean, it's hard because if you make any kind of mark out there, maybe it's even if you don't, but there's this immortalized little piece that will always be there for you when you got to... When you could call me up and say, hey, I'm going to be on TV tonight. Here's what time. Here's what channel. That's there forever. No one can take that away from you.
Right.
And that, to me, that's the fascinating part, because when I met you back in college and you were making your own movies, I remember thinking, this kid doesn't think like normal people. He doesn't... I don't mean that in a bad, negative way. I mean, he processes things in a creative way that people don't even know how to tap into, the right side of your brain, whatever you want to call it. I just remember, people always say to a guitarist, how did you come up with that riff? Where did that come from? And people might say same thing about a painter or a sculptor. What caused that? And I think it's because artistic people see the world differently. I think they see it like the Matrix, like you see the bullets coming. Yeah. And I got that from you. I will never forget. And I've told people about what you did, and even they go, holy cow, that is someone who really has an artistic mind. It was, you made your own movie. You were in high school. You needed a shot of a telephone in slow motion flying across the room. And I remember you showed me this movie, and this telephone went shoo, 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 across the room. And I remember thinking, as any kid from the 80s would, cameras don't have slow motion features, because it's not like they have now online, editing online. And plus, I've tried to throw things in the air and then follow it with a camera. It's impossible. How did you follow perfectly still without any kind of jittering a thing? And you told me, am I allowed to give away the trade secret? Because I remember you were cagey about it at the time. But I remember you said, well, the first thing you did was you took your camera and you spun around the room because you knew that would give a swishing background effect. And you took that tape out of the camera, the VHS tape, and you put it in a VCR and you pressed play on the TV. So now the TV had this background. And I said, yeah, but then how did you... And you said then you lifted the TV up, put it on its back so the glass was facing up. And then you took the phone off the cord and you placed it on the glass of the TV and you spun it gently and then hit play on the background tape and you filmed the phone on top of the TV with the background going. Even saying that now, all the hair stood up on my arms, because that is a kind of approach to the world and a creative... I mean, it's probably a little bit of it's problem solving too, but it's definitely a creative thing where I tell my students that to this day, and they look at me like, who is this? How? And I imagine it's how people think of Tim Burton when they think of how he imagines a world, or Christopher Nolan and how he comes up with a script. But you have that. You always have. And I remember early on thinking, I kind of want to hitch my wagon to this kid, because I feel like wherever he goes, something's going to happen. Because how could you have that ability and not have something magical happen? And when I watched that, when I see you on TV and saw that, and you're in a movie, it's like, well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Why am I being surprised right now? This was evident from when he was a teenager. So but what I never asked you was, how did you get the audition? Because I do remember the near misses. I remember you auditioned for that Will Ferrell movie about soccer. I think it's called Kicking and Screaming. and there was a near miss there, and there was a near miss on a TV show, and a near miss here and there, but then you got one. It stuck. So how did you get that role, and what was it like to be, because you were always being a director when I saw you making your own movies in college, and you did it in high school before. You were the director, and I kind of thought that's what was going to happen to you. I didn't know you were going to be an actor.
Yeah.
How did that movie come about, and what was it called, and why don't you give like the title, the year, and how you got the audition, what was it like to be on set?
Well, first let me start by saying thanks for those very kind words. I appreciate that. You've always been my biggest fan, and I don't know that I deserve even one fan. And if you did hitch yourself to my life, I'm so sorry. Really. Because did you say something to me last week like, I hate my life, I hate my life? Maybe it's my fault. It's my fault. You know what I think happened to me? You know, when you were just going over, you know, running through that whole legacy, I think to myself sometimes that maybe that was the track that I was meant to be on. You know, maybe when I was younger, I saw things in a certain way spatially. You know, there were things that I saw. Maybe my brain, the left quadrant or the right quadrant of my brain just saw things that way. And I think maybe that's
you can't teach that. You know, like that's hard. You can teach someone math. I mean, you can teach someone, gosh, even how to throw a football. But I don't think you can teach them to look at the world differently, to see a different image when everyone else sees. You could have given me the phone, the TV, the VCR. You could have given me the materials and say, create the shot, and I wouldn't. And I'm a reasonably intelligent guy, but I would not have been able to come up with that.
And as you're describing it, it almost, to me, I mean, it almost sounds like a eulogy of sorts, because I feel like maybe I let that stuff atrophy. Because at some point when I was out there, I think what ended up happening was maybe the vanity took over a little bit, and I think I segued into more of I want to be in front of the camera. You know, I want to be that guy. I want to be the next Keanu Reeves. I want to be on a soap. I want to, you know, it was more. I guess I wanted more. I don't know. Directors never had any celebrity status, really. I mean, it's not the same thing. It's not.
Well, directors have to go to school, though. I mean, they typically go to school.
Right, which maybe is what I should have. Maybe I should have gone to Tisch or something like that in New York, and then
you would have had to. I mean, in my opinion, acting was just the fast track to directing. Like, if you can build up, it's kind of like I just saw an article. Ryan Gosling is supposed to direct something that's going to come out, or maybe I don't know if it maybe came out or something. That's what like most of these actors now, maybe even like Mel Gibson got to direct, and like everybody gets, if they want to. Angelina Jolie recently directed.
You get enough clout. There's a progression.
And I just thought that's why you were doing that, because you'd know as an actor what you wanted as a director. So you'd be, that's what I thought you were doing.
Right.
I thought directing took school, although you seem to have these skills that didn't, where you had no formal schooling, but you had all these techniques anyway, which is crazy to me, because where did they come from? But
maybe I was just a little demented. Maybe I watched too many movies.
I don't think you did the wrong thing, though. I mean, I think if you're not going to be able to shell out 50, 100 grand for film school, I would say that you did the exact right thing. It was go after the acting track so that you could pivot down the road.
Yeah.
And it's too bad that movie that you were in came where life had kind of already sort of made you change priorities, and you'd already said, you know, I think I'm going to go be a lawyer. I think I've made my peace with this thing.
Yeah.
And then you got this break.
Yeah.
What happened? How did you get that break? How did that even happen?
The movie.
Yeah.
Well, I think the irony is that all the auditions that I felt like I'd really earned and worked for, and some of them I felt like I deserved. I felt like the performance was good enough that it merited being called back or getting the role.
Mm-hmm.
There were some of those. There were plenty where I was like, oh, God, I flubbed it. Terrible. Oh, that was so bad. I was so good this morning in the mirror. Wow, what the heck? This was a case of a friend of a friend. They needed somebody. They made a phone call. They called me and said, hey, are you available? You fit this guy perfectly. Just come in and, you know, talk to the producer director real quick. They saw your headshot. I think they're in. They're in. You just come in and don't make
that easy. Why didn't the friend take it?
I think it was a look. I think they were looking for a certain look and whatever it was. But they had already sold me by the time I got there. So the amount of work that I had to do, I mean, it was one of those things. I don't think I really felt as though I earned it.
And this was a movie about Versace.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then he was killed, right? He was shot or something by.
Yeah. Cunanan.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So it was that story, and it was. I mean, I'd done theater. I'd done a couple commercials, little bits here and there. But this was my first time on an actual film set.
Yeah.
Where now I'm bumping into the microphone guy, I'm bumping into the gaffer, and we're doing cuts over and over and over again. And I remember thinking to myself, I said a line a certain way, and I didn't like the way that it came out. It didn't seem right. But the director would seem like, yeah, perfect. That's what I wanted. But I wasn't happy with it. And
did you ask for another take and they wouldn't give it to you?
Right. So you realize that, wow, you really are. You're like a cog in a wheel. I mean, you're serving a much larger purpose, and it was just in that respect. It was. I mean, even though the whole experience is so exciting, it's also kind of humbling, because there is this machine that's in place, and again, you're just kind of one small part of it, So the whole thing about being an actor, that was all about being in the limelight and the visibility, The directors and everybody else, they were always in the shadows. This is the coming out party that I always waited for, and it felt at times like, I'm kind of a yes man here.
It was an anticlimactic.
The experience was exciting, but I think the other thing that was tarnishing it was that I already had one foot out the door. I was already accepted to law school, and it was time to go, and. I think that was the test. Was I ready to leave? I think it would have been an entirely different thing if nothing had been going on. I mean, all those years. I mean, how many months on end were we in LA and nothing was happening?
Right.
That would have been probably the perfect time to get up and go. But I felt like this was a true test of my mettle. Okay, so you're going to have to choose. You're going to have to really choose. Now there's something going on. Now you have something you can kind of put on your calling card. You're going to have to sacrifice something. So I did it, and I left. Who knows? But at some point, aren't you always going to be looking back and wondering, oh, maybe just one more day. What if I just stayed another month or another year? I mean, you were working on the reality show. You were over there. You were firmly entrenched in the Disney ABC family, and you left.
Yeah, I mean, I remember if I could go back, if only I knew what was going to happen to me next, I would have handled things differently. But my exit, the first thing that happened, because I got these reality shows and I started like stringing them together. And that's what you do in TV. You end up, it's kind of like a traveling circus. And you go to the first town, which is like a show, and then you get canceled or you get a lot of people don't realize that they shoot a lot of pilot episodes, single episodes that never actually get what they call picked up. They never even get aired. And more shows die that way than ever get born officially. It's like being stillborn. So I worked on a couple of those, and I was kind of stringing them together, and the traveling circus would move to a new town metaphorically, and I'd get the call because who I was meeting, it was all like who you knew. I wasn't the smartest guy in the room. It was because I made friends with the right people. And then I'd get to go to the next town. I'd get to go to the next show. And I was doing that until finally I got an opportunity to work for ABC corporate. And corporate was different because it was more of a 9 to 5-ish kind of gig. The hours were closer to 8 to 7. Mm-hmm. But I didn't mind because it felt safer, more secure. And I was on the corporate side. So the creative side, they call that production. And so they're out there shooting the shows. And then by the time it would come to my desk, I was just an assistant. But my boss would say things like, here, take a look at the script, read it, see what you think, let me know, give me your notes, and then we'll make this phone call, and I have to give the production my notes, but this is my boss talking. And the shows were great. I was working on 14 shows at once. They were Desperate Housewives, Grey's Anatomy, Alias, Lost, all these huge shows. And on the reality side, it was Dancing with the Stars and The Bachelor, and Extreme Makeover Home Edition. There were tons and tons of shows. And I talk about feeling like a cog in the wheel. When I said, he'd say, read that script, I'd get 14 scripts at the same day. 14, which would take me 14 hours if I actually read them all. So those would just go into some kind of pile, and then we'd get rough cuts starting to come in, these little DVDs of daily shoots, the dailies. And he'd be like, yeah, watch those, and then let me know if there's anything really cool or any notes you might have, and then we'll have to make this phone call later, and I'll give them my notes. And then the DVDs would come in 14 at a time. And I didn't have time to watch any of that. So I just felt like I was working in a widget factory. my dreams were coming true in a way, but that was the reality. Like it wasn't creative at all. Although there were times, like during pilot season, they would actually let all of us, even the peons, go to these Disney had all these movie theaters scattered all over their campus, and you'd get one that was assigned to you, and you'd go there and sit, and you'd watch all of the pilots they shot, all of the comedies, all of the dramas. This would go on for days, like 5-6 days, and you'd get free popcorn, free candy, free soda, just like at the movies. And at the end, you'd have little breakout discussions about what you saw, what you liked, what you didn't like, and those notes would all filter up to somebody who gets to make those decisions. Now that felt cool. That made me feel like I'm actually contributing to the creative process.
Yeah, see, that part's exciting. I think that what we maybe didn't anticipate was going out there and actually being involved in something, being involved in the creative process and making something, and then feeling as though you're taking your marching orders to some extent. And I felt like in making that movie, at times I felt like I had no individuality at all. And it would have been totally different if I'd gone out there and maybe did some stand-up or something and crafted my own material like I did with the play.
That, yeah.
It was the individuality that I'm reciting somebody else's lines that somebody else wrote, and he's telling me exactly how he wants it done. And I just sort of felt like I was kind of fading into the background a little bit, and I wasn't used to that.
I was extraordinarily replaceable. Anybody could have done my job, and they would have killed to do it. So I showed up to work every day feeling like I was lucky to be there.
Yeah.
And at the best moments, of course, you meet the celebrities. They were coming in, they were pitching stuff. It was neat. But I remember they said to me, "Get us a band for Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, but give us like a list of bands we could approach. But don't go putting anyone who we can't get. Radiohead's not going to do it, so don't even put them on your list. We don't care that you like them. Give us bands we could get." And I put this list of realistic bands, and number one was Duran Duran, which is probably no shock to you, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, they hadn't yet reformed with the original members, so I knew it was doable. And they looked at my list, they made some phone calls, and Duran Duran was the midnight band that year. And I felt like,
you had affected something.
I affected something. And and that same boss who picked that, later we had these important people coming in, and he needed these index cards to be cut up, and he didn't want it to be messed up. And he at first gave me the index cards to cut, and then later took them from me because he didn't trust me to cut paper. Like that's the job at its worst. Where,
right.
Wow, what am I? I'm just answering the phone. I really am. I'm that replaceable. I can't even be trusted to cut paper.
Yeah.
So I had these moments of where I was proud.
Yeah.
These moments where I was not proud at all, and I felt so small. And eventually I left because my bosses got fired in this other department. I worked for two different executives. They both got fired, not because they did a bad job.
No, I remember they were cleaning house.
They were cleaning house.
Yeah.
It was just time to like out with the old, in with the new. And I remember the boss's boss said, "Look, kid, nothing against you, but it's a new regime and your bosses are gone, and sorry." And they gave me a little severance, and I was out. And I remember thinking, now I got to go. And then I went back to production. I went back to working on another reality show. And I was the oldest person by 5 years. Everyone was in their 20s because you don't get medical, you don't get pensions, you're making like $500 a week, and you don't know if you're going to have a job next month because you don't know if they're going to get picked up. You don't know for how many episodes. Right. And I remember thinking, like, can I really go back to living like this? I was in my 30s now, and it didn't feel the same as when I was in my 20s. This is the one creative thing that I'll always regret. My biggest regret was that's when I'd already interviewed to come back to be a teacher. I was waiting for them to call me back, and even though I had left ABC Corporate, someone over there who liked me, who I'd only met once, called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, we have an opening. You wouldn't be an assistant anymore. You'd be under your own steam. You'd have your own office to work in the diversity department," which was just a department that I did a little assignment for once, small thing. And they said, do you want the job? Like, no interview, just, do you want to come back? And if I knew how things were going to turn out, I would have said, absolutely. Oh, my God, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, no, I'm going to go be the teacher again. I had no idea. I had no idea how much my job had changed because I was a teacher in the 90s, and now it was the late 00s. I had no idea. I had no idea that I was going to see my parents so little because I was going to be so bogged down with work. Had I known these things, I would have stayed. I would have jumped on that. That's my biggest regret in the industry creatively, having that opportunity and saying no to it. Oh, if I could do it again, man.
Would you?
I would absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, because I wanted to get closer to family. That's why I returned. I see my family less now that I live a couple hundred miles away than when I lived a couple thousand miles away, because I used to go home, at least I'd have 2 weeks off a year where I could see them for the full 2 weeks. I don't see my parents 14 days anymore, not with teaching.
I wonder sometimes if we get so wistful about LA, and the other day I got a phone call from my buddy who was working at the restaurant with me, and he'd sent me a picture of Bizu, and it was just a picture of the dining room.
Mm-hmm.
The dining room that I loathed coming to night after night after night, and I hadn't seen the restaurant in a while, years. And when I saw it, I actually had this visceral reaction to it. Actually, I had this exhalation. I went, oh. I mean, it was almost pathetic. It was like, wow, I really miss. And I don't know if it's, maybe everybody just gets very nostalgic about what they were doing when they were younger, regardless of where it was. I don't know if is it more so because we were in LA, we were living in the dream factory? Is it more so because we were there, or does everyone have a tendency to do that because you were younger, and when you're younger you're more energetic and you're having fun and you're more carefree?
I think some people do it when they were quarterback for their football team in high school. Yeah. I don't know how many people do it in their 20s, because so many people in our 20s, our friends were getting married, having kids, starting their careers.
Right.
We were out there, being perpetual Peter Pans, and I don't know if they harken back to when I was in my mid to late 20s.
Right.
I don't know if they do
maybe
that.
not.
But before I forget, it's time for some movie quotes.
Time for some quotes?
Yeah.
All right. You want some revenge for last time, I think.
You better believe it. Holy cow. The last couple times, I think.
It was a drubbing.
Jeez. Yeah. It was embarrassing.
I drubbed you, Dub.
Yeah. Drub the Dub. They actually named my band in the 80s.
Drub the Dub?
Mm-hmm.
That's catchy. Jackie, my niece is going to be delivering the lines once again. She's took some time today to come in and join us and do some live quotes. We appreciate it.
I'm sure she has homework to do as well. So everyone makes their sacrifices.
Thanks for
Jackie,
making that sacrifice, Jackie. We appreciate it. You got one for Warren first?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let's do this.
No laughing.
Heads up, Papas. I want to see you retrieve at least 2 bricks.
Holy, I need that again.
I don't know how to pronounce this. Heads up, Papas. I want to see you retrieve at least 2 bricks.
Heads up, Papas. I want to see you at least retrieve 2 bricks.
She's doing me a favor by pronouncing it the way that she is. I think if it was pronounced another way, you'd get it immediately.
Oh.
Jackie, try it one more time. Do it slow. Please.
Heads up, Papas. Whatever. I want to see you retrieve at least 2 bricks.
I mean, a brick, I think, is slang for bad basketball. Basketball's off the rim. I bricked that one, so I'm just gonna go with Hoosiers and got it.
Okay. Heads up, Pappas. I want to see you retrieve at least 2 bricks.
Oh my, that'd be Major League. It's the only one. Is Pappas.
Pappas.
Pappas? No.
Point Break.
Oh God.
Pappas.
Oh man.
Remember when he's jumping in the pool and he goes,
no.
You remember when he has to dive and get the bricks out of the bottom of the pool? He's like, I have no idea what diving into a pool for bricks has to do with being an FBI agent.
And I've seen that movie 1,000 times. Is that in the way beginning?
Yeah.
No.
That's right when he meets Johnny.
Yeah, but I always catch it like when they're
Punk,
eating meatball
quarterback
subs.
Punk. Okay.
By the time I tune, I always catch it when Patrick Swayze's coming on. So
I thought the Pappas would give it to you for sure. But
oh man, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing.
All right, 1-0.
Yeah. All right, hit him hard.
Because you love her, I will forgive you that once. Say that again, and you are no longer my brother.
That is Legends of the Fall, and I love those scenes on that porch.
I know.
I love those scenes.
I know. When I told you I'd never watched it before, I think you might have even showed me that scene first, and then rewound the movie and played the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's Aidan Quinn's classic line, where
you will lose, right?
You says, You will fail.
You you will fail.
You will fail.
I remember you played me that too.
I love it.
There's a lot of things about me you don't know anything about, Dottie. Things you wouldn't understand. Things you couldn't understand.
The only Dottie I know is League of Their Own, but I don't remember anyone. It's like is it Dottie, Dottie? The only Dottie I can think of right now is A League of Their Own. So that's what I got to go with, but I just don't remember anyone saying that.
I actually can't take credit for this one. My brother-in-law,
Yeah.
our producer, came up with this one because I only had 10 quotes last night. So,
Okay.
It's Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, Dottie. Yeah, her name's Dottie too.
Things you couldn't understand.
I'm a
Things
loner
you
Dottie,
shouldn't
a rebel.
understand.
I would have if I was a loner Dottie, a rebel. I would have gotten that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Wow.
Not easy. Not easy.
No, but it's in the 80s. It's in my wheelhouse. I got to redeem myself somehow here. I don't know how I'm going to do it now.
Make me laugh.
That was one of my secret weapons before.
How do you do, Mrs. Leach? I'm Harvey, Manfire Jin. I'm with the CIA. I was just telling your husband here. Before I had to go to your beautiful bathroom, we've got a high-ranking KGB defector in the safe house near here. We're debrifying him as of now. We're just checking all the houses in the neighborhood. Look, you obviously don't know anything about intelligence work, lady. It's an XK Red 27 technique.
When she said Mr. Kinjin,
It's Jinsin. Whatever you want to say.
Don't you laugh?
that leads me to believe it's Fletch.
Oh, wow.
But I'm wrong?
It is a Chevy Chase technique because he made up a lot of nonsense names.
He's a Spies Like Us.
It's his technique, but it's not.
It's not Chevy Chase.
It's not Chevy Chase. Mrs. Man, friends, and Jins and.
That's Chevy Chase. That's
I know,
right out of his wheel. That's right out of his playbook.
I know, but when you hear who did it, you'll be like, "Oh, right." The character name was the only thing that would really. I mean, the character name should help you, because it said.
It's Harvey and Mrs. Leach.
Mrs. Leach. Yeah.
I don't know.
That would be A Fish Called Wanda. When Kevin Kline, he's like,
that's right.
It's an XK Red 27 technique.
That's a good movie to mine some quotes from. I never thought about Fish Called Wanda.
It's hard because there's so many swear words, though.
Yeah.
I had to really maneuver around the swear
words. Do you go through
words.
IMDb and get
sometimes,
quotes?
yeah.
Okay.
Because I want to get them right, and you know.
Okay.
Whew.
All right. Well, we got one more for you here. Here we go.
Last one. This is my last one. Okay.
This is it.
Con.
Khan. The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek 2.
Yes, very good.
James Kirk.
Very good.
William Shatner.
I won 2 in a row.
Wait, there should be one because I went first. So there's one.
Was
more
that it?
Right?
One more for me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Blaine. His name.
Pretty in Pink.
His name is Blaine. Do I need to read the rest of it or no?
It's a major appliance. That's not a name.
That was the rest of it.
Yep.
Blaine? That's a major appliance. That's not a name. My heart is breaking.
I even did the stammer. I put that dash.
Did
that's
you?
That's man. You
Sorry.
really know that. That's,
I just watched that recently. So that was still kind of fresh in my mind. Good job. Thanks, Jackie.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Excellent job. I can't believe we actually run out of time again. This is remarkable.
Are we done?
I think it's been a half hour. I mean, I believe.
In closing, could you? I think the viewers and the listeners would love to know. I mean, if you could give a pithy little 2-minute, synopsis of what's the difference between. I mean, reality TV is so popular now, right?
Cool.
So you were there. You were involved in the sausage making process. What's the difference between what's actually happening and then the edited, manufactured final product?
Okay, I'm only saying this based on the shows that I saw and the people I talked to who are on other shows. I don't know that every show does this. But what I saw was first people being marinated in alcohol, which even when watching as a viewer,
I've read that's
when
pretty,
you think they're sober,
that's common.
It was just always available, and for good reason, because it lowered inhibitions. It would make people snap easier, cry easier, kiss easier, all the things that make for good TV. That's not to say that you couldn't be supplied by it and then simply not partake, and that doesn't mean every show's doing it, but that was the first thing I noticed. Second thing I noticed, and this was based on the editing process that I got to take part in. Did you ever walk into someone's house and they have those refrigerator magnets that have all the words, and then people kind of arrange the words in their own little, sometimes it'll be funny, sometimes it'll be dirty, whatever. I liken the packaging of a reality show to that process. Basically what I'm saying is they film you speak all of the words that are stuck on the fridge, but the way that those words will eventually find their order on TV won't necessarily be the way they came. I remember being on this one, and they said, gosh, what would be really great here is if we had a look of jealousy from him because his friend is flirting with the girl. Find me a look of jealousy, they would tell me. And then I would go scour the tapes and the logs, because my first job was called a logger, so I had to script everything. And I remember you'd want to use keywords like he looks jealous, he looks mad. And you'd find that jealousy look, okay? But it would be from sometimes a different day, sometimes from a different hour, but there'd be this you'd have the look that you were looking for, but even though it didn't happen, they were just taking that little magnet from the fridge and moving it where they needed it. And they would cut it in. Now, did you or did you not have that look? You did. So it's technically reality.
See, it's so interesting that you say that, because, and I don't know if most people realize this, but the reality TV that I've watched, I can tell someone will say something, and then there'll be a reaction shot where the other person is sitting there and listening, and it's this long, drawn-out sort of stare, right? But that, to me, it seems like, no, that's from another moment. This person is listening to something. They're not sitting there in silence like... And it's so clear to me. Do you think most people recognize that that's not real time? That's not what's happening?
No, I think they're very much fooled. And I think it happens in movies. Do you ever see in a movie shot where they do the ADR, they do the voiceover later, and the person's line is done, and the camera's from behind their head, but you still see their head going...
Yes.
Like that.
Yes.
But the line was done.
Yep.
But they ad-libbed or they changed the script enough where they call it sliding the audio. So sometimes you'll take an audio from this one chunk and you'll place it over a different chunk of video. And they call that sliding the audio. So a lot of times they would slide the audio. So what you're seeing, that reaction shot, they're actually not listening to the audio that was being played on your TV at that moment. That audio's from earlier. But they wanted a reaction of stuff like, wow, I'm really thinking about that. I'm really in
I sometimes wonder if they got that out of the soap opera playbook, because...
Is that what they do in soaps?
You remember soap operas? Think about this. If you ever watched any of them, right, there'll be a big question posed. It'll be like cliffhanger, big question posed before the commercial break. And it'll be this crazy question like, did you or did you not sleep with my mother? And then the other character is like...
Slow push, cut to commercial.
Right. How incriminating is it if you said to me, did you or did you not sleep with my girlfriend? And I went like this. And then we get 5 commercials, and then we cut back, and he goes, no.
Right. My wife and I have a good time. We watch The Biggest Loser. And do you know The Biggest Loser? Here's what I want you to look for. I did not work on that show, but here's what I want you to look for. Before they cut to commercial while they're weighing in, they will always show a look on their face as to what the number said. So it's like, da-da-da, da-da-da, and then their face goes, oh. And then we always go, it's good news. Yep. Because they showed you a sad, awful reaction, and then they come back, and what they end up happening is they end up going, yay! For a minute there, I thought I was gonna be like, oh, but then I saw the number, I was like, yay!
So it's like you're like, you only lost 1 pound, and then it shows like 20 pounds, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exact, so we play that game of like, and then when they're like, and here's your weight loss, and they go, and we go, oh, they're off the show. Because it looks like they're about to be really, really happy, so they're definitely off the show. And then we come back and like, why did you, we're used to it now, but...
You would think the audience would be too. It seems like if it's gotten that formulaic, then I think it would be so predictable.
Maybe I'm underestimating the audience, but it seems like when I talk to people, they're always surprised to find out that this is how so many of these shows operate.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm
Absolutely.
not into endorsing shows, but I will say that my girlfriend has gotten me pretty into Vanderpump Rules.
I don't know what that is.
On Bravo. It's
Bravo.
it's a bunch of waiters and bartenders. It's like ancient Rome. They're just, and it's
Oh,
in
wow.
L.A. and it's in a restaurant that is
Oh.
right now serving the public in L.A.
Oh.
So it's kind of a throwback, and
I'll have to take a look at it.
yeah. And everyone out there, check it out. Only after you watch us,
Right.
and listen to us, and you can
Right.
do that on iTunes. You can subscribe on YouTube.
You can tweet it. You can email it.
I mean, you can come to the studio, watch us do it live. I don't know.
Yeah. The live
Yeah.
studio audience has been very, very nice.
Yeah. I like having people around. Yeah. Thanks for doing this again.
Yeah, man. Happy to do it.
I appreciate it. Maybe pretty soon are we coming up on our 100th episode? Should we have like a celebration?
Yeah, we'll have the big cake.
Yeah.
Number 8.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it'd be great to get here by summer, but I would say see you in June is my thought.
Okay. Okay.
We'll see.
Sounds good. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks again. Thanks for being my friend. Thanks for loving me.
Yeah, I mean, thank you.
Thanks for loving me.
Well, we can.
Thanks for loving me.
We can talk about
And
that.
thanks
It's-
for tuning in, everyone.
Love's
We'll
a
see you next
strong
time. You love me.